Is it
short?
yeah, she's short.
She looks big in her.
Native people, Native culture, Native knowledge. Hi, I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you award-winning Heartbeat Alaska.
Bringing you national and international Native news, this is award-winning Heartbeat Alaska, the premier Native voice in Native programming.
There's a heartbeat, louder thunder, revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool?
Now, with Heartbeat Alaska, here's Jeannie Green.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska, Native news and Native information. I'm Jeannie Green. Thank you so very much for inviting us into your home once again. Today, we take a close look at a report released by the Johns Hopkins University recently, stating that 1 in every 3 women in the world during their lifetime has been beaten or coerced into sex, or in other words, abused. We take a look at that abuse in Alaska, specifically in Southwest Alaska, and see what they're doing about it. Don't go away. It's a great show. Hey, everyone. Help us welcome one of our new sponsors, Wave Wholesale Company, your one-stop supply source for village retail stores, food service customers, and government agencies. Welcome aboard, Wave.
You got it.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Coca-Cola.
Heartbeat Alaska is also brought to you by Alaska Village Electrical Cooperative, turning the lights on in rural Alaska.
Heartbeat Alaska is sponsored in part by Chugach Alaska Corporation.
Heartbeat Alaska thanks Executive Suite Hotel, the official hotel for Heartbeat Alaska. When you come to Anchorage, please stop in and say hello. We travel now to Southwest Alaska. Thanks to Tundra Women's Coalition, we take a look at the violence against women in that area, and more importantly, what they're doing about it.
like any other astute person. She had a bright future ahead of her. And that summer, every now and then, she would call me in the middle of the night and tell me that she couldn't go to work today because she was literally beat up. And I distinctly can hear her voice telling me with the shame and the sadness that went with it. And later that summer, she left the guy, went to her home, and then later that fall, she came and seen me, and she was really happy and she was really excited. And I asked her, you know, great to see you, how are you? And she said, oh, I'm fine. She told me that she was going to go see this guy, and I said, he beat you up though. And she didn't want to hear any of that stuff. She was way too excited for, you know, the change of life or whatever she was going through. About a week or so later, I heard that they had found her dead in that guy's house, and she was a victim of domestic violence.
Well, I was affected by domestic violence. We had a family member that died because of a domestic violence incident. And there are others in the extended family that are in relationships that are not too good, you know, that could potentially be very destructive and very fatal. So we're all affected by it in one way or another here in Bethel and the communities.
Domestic violence is, of course, a serious problem, not only in this community but in the surrounding villages. I've traveled to other villages as a village police public safety officer, and I've seen domestic violence situations in almost all the villages I have gone to.
I've experienced domestic violence in my life. I've grown up in a violent home, and violence was among the community too, where I grew up. There was a case where one woman was beaten to death by her husband, and her husband committed suicide.
Slapping around and verbal abuse, mostly verbal abuse I did, and it came to be a controlling issue that I had at the house, and it was, well, controlling her not to go anywhere, not to see somebody, and then it got to be verbal, calling names and shoving, and it just escalated. Seemed like it was getting worse and worse every time.
My bruises, my black eyes, my split lips, my sometimes there was rape. These things were happening. I would put it to blame myself, but one time I saw my daughter. This is the first time he ever hit her, spanked her. He kept spanking her and telling her to be quiet, and she wouldn't be quiet. She just kept crying more, and that's when I knew that everything was not my fault, but it was something that would happen to her. And that's when I woke up, but it didn't happen over time. I did leave many times, and when I finally decided to leave, I left. I needed another week on my job. I was trying to get financial things together, and I sent my daughter away to go to my parents, and then I moved out to his father's, and all I remember is he would come every other day, and then one day he came and he was very intoxicated and said, "You're my wife, get home, pack your things now." And I said, "No, I'm through, I'm done, I'm leaving you." But he left and said, "You'll be sorry." And then he came back and he had a rifle in his hand, and he had it set, he staggered and he was intoxicated, and he came up to me and put the rifle to my head and said, "I'm going to kill you, then I'll kill myself and we'll both be happy."
So why is it important that Alaska Natives be counted?
Census 2000 is almost here. In fact, the first person in the United States to be counted will be in Unalakleet on January 20th. Everyone needs to participate, especially in Alaska, and most importantly, in rural Alaska. Congress, state and federal agencies use census data to fund programs such as housing, health, education, and many other vital services.
So what do we lose if I don't get counted?
Even if a few persons in your community don't participate, your community could see drastically reduced services. In the 1990 census, 11,000 Alaskans were not counted. What this meant for the state for 1 year is $17.6 million of reduced services. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again.
Plan now to attend the Alaska Native Fiddle Fest 2, Friday, February 18th at the UAA Campus Center. Experience Alaska Native fiddling at its best. Call 248-3499 for tickets or information.
It affects both families. So I can't think of any family that isn't affected by it, because it's all around us.
Domestic violence affects communities in a lot of different ways. The biggest way that I've seen domestic violence affecting this area is that I work directly and indirectly with children. And the younger the children are, whether they are being abused or they are seeing the abuse, once they hit kindergarten or first grade or elementary education, they present a lot of problems to the teacher, to the classroom, to the other students, to themselves. And that really affects their educational from the onset. It affects the other kids' education from the onset. It affects the teacher's effectiveness. So as a whole, the whole class is affected by this, and they're not at the level of learning that they should be.
I think domestic violence is everywhere. It happens every day, all the time. It's our neighbors. It's the people that we work with, maybe the people that we see at the post office. It's anyone, maybe the person running down the road, or it could be a grandparent or an aunt, uncle, whoever it is. And I think it affects us in all ways, especially with the teachers in the schools, because the children that live in those ups and downs of the home cannot concentrate in school. And if there are no children, in my case, just working, trying to do a job and work and not be able to concentrate on your job, and then maybe always losing a job. And so it affects the jobs, it affects the schools, it affects the home, of course, and the community. It's really hard when it becomes a silent thing and it's not talked about it, but we see it and we know.
It's affecting our children. If children see violence in the home, they're going to give violence also. If they're raised in a loving environment, they're going to remember that. And what we do, I think it all starts in the home. It starts in the home. That we should communicate with our children and have them talking about their feelings. Teach them how to, and model it. Have them talk about their feelings, their fears, and their hopes, and their dreams, and allow them, give them the opportunity to grow and to learn.
Personally, when I walk around town and I see people with bruises or cuts on their faces, and even when my kids see them, we always feel sorry for them and say, "Knuckling, you know, how sad. You know, it can be avoided." But that's when I get to teach my son and my daughter that that shouldn't have to happen, and we each can make our own choice for it not to happen.
They don't trust, the children don't know who to turn to, and maybe sometimes they're very angry and they cannot take it out on the bigger kids or anyone. They may take it out on the younger brother or sister, or even out on the kids in the school or animals. You know, it affects children in all ways.
In responding to domestic violence calls, a lot of times kids are involved. Immediately when you respond to a call and you get there, kids are crying, and you know how domestic violence between the husband and the wife is impacting the kids just by looking at them. They're crying, they're shaking, they just don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn to. If their father is yelling and screaming, if the mother's yelling and screaming, the kids are just going to stand there and just look at those two individuals, and you might even think you know what they're thinking about. It's not always a good sight to see children crying while the two parents are arguing or fighting.
When I was small, I started thinking that if I grow up, I'm not going to be violent like these people. But somewhere in my life, I used that. When I drink, I got violent.
Peer pressure the kids see from their parents, especially if the domestic violence is an ongoing problem, the children are going to think that if they can do that, I can do that. So they turn on their brothers or sisters and do the same thing. I've seen children who have fought with each other, and it's not just pulling their hair or just pushing them or shoving them. It's hitting and scratching, kicking, and probably 9 times out of 10 they've seen somebody else do that before.
I think domestic violence will end when we start facing the fact that it is out there and that we can talk about it and we can try to find a solution, and that men and women can say, yes, it's there, and let's talk and let's find a solution. And there can be lots of solutions. But I think communication and waking up a community is the way to go.
It takes a lot of people. It takes community working together. It takes leaders being models, healthy models. It takes families communicating with one another. It takes a whole community.
I believe traditionally people all worked together. Women just didn't work to prevent domestic violence. Men were there, elders and children, everybody worked together, and I believe that's how it should be. Some people believe that traditional values is for people back then, people of the past, and they shouldn't be used today. I disagree with that. These traditional values are like the foundation in a house, whereas a foundation is our ancestors and what they have handed down from generation to generations, and it was the way of life to live in harmony. And the house is like us. We're the house, you and I, that are alive and talking at the moment. The foundation itself is not going to be any useful. It needs a house, and a house cannot stand without a foundation. So I really believe we need both traditional values and today, and they work very well today.
Jalisu toiwa na tamana nang tiagak kalagut suku tangaurunun kasigimittawam kasigimittawaim kutyut huamang kasigitawam niitaq suku angut tangaurlut nassaulut tunanni jali aknat kalaguluki tamana nunatsuagani angayuqita aulukuuluku atorpailigat huaarnarlriit qannerut kurulukipitullruit qiumiortquuqallemmani nulirtorpailigata wiingvailigataallu qanneruquuquluki pikaatsteng tamaanallu atoruyulallrat maaimakut atortai pifkinaaki kingoqliitauaamakut nulirtoqsailnguut wiingsailnguutlu qanneruquuquluki pikuunertki utuumatmun kingoqliit atauquaunrutiqqanaani quangani.
Simple. Years back, I remember watching a Clint Eastwood movie where he sings a country song that the greatest painkiller is to throw your arm around somebody's shoulders. That's exactly what we need to do. When you throw your arm around somebody's shoulder, you're just going into the same level with them. You are not judging them, or you're not praising them or anything. You're just at the same level. And once you do that, then there is opportunity for both men to talk with each other about their feelings and their problems.
The men in the community, in order to help other men, other batters, is to probably have the batter admit that he is the batter, and have them admit that they are hurting family members and other people.
We need to get the word more, either by workshops or just let the public know about domestic violence, what effects does it have in the family and in our community.
What would have helped me a lot was just knowing there was resources out there, just knowing that there was some place I could call, or if there was education, pamphlets or anything available, that I would have read it, or somebody would have shoved it into my hands and said, hey, Velda, read this. But at the same time, I feel like if the signals I was giving off to people, maybe the bruises somebody saw that were already healing pretty good, but fading, if someone would have stopped and said, hey, let me help you, or I know something's going on, but nobody did. It was just like I was a walking invisible person, that even the bruises I carried didn't really matter, and I began to feel that it didn't matter.
A person is experiencing domestic violence, they believe that they are the only person in the world that, or in that village or in that family, experiencing domestic violence. We need to reach out to those people and tell them that they are not alone, that there are a lot of people, and a lot of service agencies know about domestic violence, and there are ways to help them, there are ways to protect them.
Provide some counseling and some follow-up aftercare. And there certainly are a lot of programs here that do that.
TWC is a place we're a big support. We support women, children. We are here to help, to be supportive, to educate, to provide information, and to empower women, children to step out on their own and work on their issues, whatever violence they go through, and that they can go on in their lives and take care of themselves and prevent these things from happening again. So I see TWC as a stepping stone, a place to empower women and children, and we are here as a support, and not to, we can guide, but we cannot give their plan of their life. They have to find the solution themselves.
Other ways in stopping domestic violence, they would have to recognize those people who are in domestic violence situations and notify the proper authorities, so they can do their job and investigate. If a crime is seen, noticed, and nothing has been done, it's going to happen again.
Pagtlhoqaagmeanun chautunritlinnian kingoakullumiortaqarluatoatin toi umiortqan qiqqauni kingoakkun tauam maaimattum nalliini umiortq kangelachta umyuga toy kamay kaniting naksuku.
The community as a whole needs to get together, recognize domestic violence is the problem, and talk about in ways to stop domestic violence.
This is not right. You should not have to live with this. The children should not have to live in a home that has violence.
Help is all around. We can help each other. We should all come together and beat domestic violence.
The more I thought about it, it seemed like it's everybody's problem, not my only.
We live in communities that we think are so isolated. You are not alone. We are not alone.
We can support each other, communicate with one another, and know that we can heal from this.
Thank you so much, Tundra Women's Coalition, for that video on a very, very important topic that apparently affects everyone around the world. 1 in every 3 women is coerced into sex, beaten, or abused in their lifetime. We'll try and give you more information on what we're doing here in the state of Alaska and perhaps across Canada to fight violence against women. And now for some Native American music videos. Thank you everyone for joining us for Heartbeat Alaska, Native News and Native Information. I'm Jeannie Green. Check out our website at jeanniegreen.com. And also join us again next week as we visit the Inupiaq village of Norvik, Alaska. God bless you, and we'll see you again